Hello, listeners and viewers. Edward Shanahan here with Annette.
Good
We're
morning.
both. We're Good morning. We're both working out of our makeshift offices. If you hear a little noise on the side, it's neighbors doing construction. It's basically 50 feet to 100 feet from me, so it may be sawing. It's nice to have Annette back. We'll be doing more of this. We upgraded, and we're going to be possibly doing live podcasts, live. Yeah, through maybe Facebook, Amazon. No, not Amazon, but YouTube and stuff like that.
Zoom,
Yeah,
yeah.
Zoom and that. So, Annette, we do have a guest today.
We do.
It's an author. Why don't you do the introduction of who our guest is before we go take a fast break?
Absolutely. So today we're going to be speaking with Dr. Richard Gallagher, MD. He's the world's leading psychiatric authority on demonic activity. He shines a scientific and psychological lens on the world of possessions, oppressions, and infestations. He has a new book out. It's called Demonic Foes. And he's going to be with us in just a minute after this message.
Hello, viewers. Edward Shanahan. It's been a while since I've done a video message. Yes, I'm at the Humphrey House. Yes, you may see a little change here or there. But I've spent the whole day doing readings. We're doing personal readings again, spirit communication. If you want to do paranormal night, that can be discussed for you and your families, okay? Or if you want to do just a spirit communication session for your loved ones, with you and your family, that can be also done in the evening even. So email me from edwardshanahan.com. That's my website. You'll see everything there but the spirit communication session to be held at night that you email me for, usually Saturday night, for your loved ones, for your friends and family. Okay, so you take care, enjoy, be safe out there, stay out of trouble. Okay, viewers, we are back. Listeners, we are back with Dr. Richard Gallagher, MD. And Annette's here. You can see the doctor on our screen. And doctor, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you.
Okay. Annette, name the book. Let the people know again.
Absolutely. So Dr. Gallagher has written a new book. It was just released on the 6th, I believe, called Demonic Foes. Now, Demonic Foes, he's been a psychiatrist for 25 years. And he's got this new book, and I'm dying to know more about it, really.
Psychiatrists investigating possessions, diabolic attacks, and the paranormal. And doctor, go ahead, Annette. Yes.
So first of all, I want to know, doctor, how you got started. Obviously, you went to medical school and you became a trained physician. Did someone along your path that you knew personally, or did the church come to you originally? How did you get started with delving into the demonic possession portion of psychology?
Well, I always tell people, Annette, I never really volunteered. Okay.
Right.
I never volunteered for anything. I got involved in this field because after my psychiatric residency at Yale, I was an attending psychiatrist at Cornell Medical College.
Okay.
And a priest came into my office and asked if I'd consult in a case that he wasn't sure about. He wasn't sure whether this woman had a medical problem or a demonic attack.
Okay.
It turned out to be what we call an oppression, not a possession, but it was a serious demonic attack. Then he kept consulting me for years. He and his compadre, a very prominent American exorcist, and together they saw a tremendous amount of cases all over the country. They got me invited to join the International Association of Exorcists, which is a worldwide Vatican-approved organization, and I became its scientific advisor for a while. I'm actually the longest-standing American member. And then later, people asked me to, as I continued to consult on a lot of cases, people ask me to start putting my findings down in writing. I'm a full professor of psychiatry, and I thought that would be of some value. And then eventually, people asked for much more evidence, including in a Washington Post comments section. I had written a brief essay, and there were 1 million comments, and the preponderance of the comments was, Dr. Gallagher, we'd like to see you present more evidence. Something that I was actually specifically, somewhat oddly, asked not to do in the article, but I figured to present the evidence in a way that would be helpful to whoever was interested in this subject, I'd have to write a book, and that's what I finally got published by HarperCollins a few days ago.
Okay. Well, congratulations on having a new book. That's great.
The book is beautiful. Let me say one thing. The book, I received a copy of the book. It's beautiful. It's hardcover. I love the cover. It's fantastic. So thank you.
Doctor, when you talk about when you use the word oppression, okay, I know I saw a few of those words that oppression, infestation, possession. Can you give us a little idea about the differences or nuances of those attacks?
Sure. And I give a course on this, so I can talk about this as long as you want. There are, most believers in a lot of religions, and certainly in Christianity, and I am a Catholic, they believe that the devil can tempt us. Now, that we don't blame the devil for our problems. We have free will ourselves, but most traditional Christians would say that the devil can tempt people from time to time, although it's a bit of a mystery. We don't know what comes from our own human nature and what comes from sort of demonic temptation. But all that stuff is regarded as within the ordinary operation of a demonic strategy. And one shouldn't exaggerate the significance of that. I'm not somebody who sees the devil everywhere. Then there are, Annette, what are called extraordinary attacks of demons. So this is where the attack is not only much more prominent, but much more overt. And there are three, and you mention all three. The most serious, which I highlight in the book, are possessions,
okay,
which are rare. A full possession is rare. Then there's a broad range of attacks, a variety that most American exorcists call oppressions. There are different words used to describe it in history. And
okay,
for instance, when I go to the meetings in Italy, the Italians use an Italian word, but a different word than oppression.
okay.
And then those are sort of lesser degrees of attack upon an individual as a possession than
Doctor, would you say that might be one entity, one?
Well, it could be multiple. Demons characteristically lie who they are, so they may say there are 10,000 entities. I mean, I never kind of believe what they say. You never quite know whether you're dealing with one, which I presume primarily you're dealing with, or multiple. And they have all kinds of strategies. They pretend they're all kinds of other things.
Okay.
In modern times, they often pretend that they're dead souls of people who have died.
Mm.
In ancient times, they also I studied classics at Princeton, so I'm very well knowledgeable about ancient literature. And in ancient times, they tended to present themselves as gods and goddesses. some
Oh,
of
okay.
some of which were malevolent. But to get back to your original question, then the third category of demonic attack is what we call infestation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where there's an attack on, usually on a locale, on some inanimate object or even an animal, but not on a human being.
Okay.
These things can coexist with each other. But those are the three categories: possession, rare; oppression, rare, not quite so rare; and infestation, again, relatively rare, but not super rare.
The infants, the last one. You say
Infestation.
yeah. When you see these shows on TV, these paranormal shows, blah blah blah. What's your take on that? When they say they feel that there's something evil going on here, et cetera, et cetera. I've never come across an evil entity myself. What's your opinion on it?
Well,
do you think it's a site for a show? That's even.
Well, I think it's what?
Just hyping a for the show. Do you
Well,
think it's that rare? Like I said, I've never come across it. Do you think it's that rare? Or
I think that some of those shows obviously are hyped. On the other hand, I think infestation, as we understand it in Christian literature, which has been written about for hundreds of years, all these things have, very strict criteria. Infestations by evil spirits, I believe, are real. And so sometimes in these hauntings and sounds, chains, knocks in the middle of the night, people walking on staircases.
toys going off. I was at a house where the toys were going off.
I think that stuff is definitely real. I don't think it's common, but I think it's real.
Mm-hmm.
I always say the English have the best stories. They've been writing ghost stories for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And a famous student of this subject, who was actually a Jesuit priest, named Herbert Thurston, wrote books on ghosts and poltergeists. And he says what people don't really understand, and he's especially talking about skeptics, is that these have been reported throughout history by all sorts of people, by uneducated people out in the country, by sophisticated city dwellers, by highly educated people. And sure, sometimes some of this stuff could be figments of people's imagination or frauds. But the evidence over the centuries, as the evidence for possessions and oppressions, by the way, is so massive that you really have to shut your eyes not to believe that some of this evidence is valid.
Doctor, if someone came to you and said, "Oh, I believe my child is possessed," they firmly believe that that's what's happening, what are the kind of steps that you might take to help that person either recover or diagnose or move forward?
Well, what I do, Annette, is I do a very thorough evaluation.
Okay.
Now, a lot of these individuals, I'm going to call them victims if it's genuine. A lot of these victims are sent to me by clergy who've already screened them a little bit.
Okay.
And that includes Protestant ministers, Catholic priests, and even some, Islamic imams, some rabbis. In some ways, I prefer to get it through a clergy person, because then I know they have someone they can go back to for help if they need spiritual help. And also, most of these individuals, I mean, I don't work with kind of, the charlatans and the exploiters. I only work with clergy who I think are pretty well informed. Although in more recent years, some people, admittedly, as I've written more about this, have sought me out on their own. So what they're asking me to do often is do a kind of thorough medical and psychiatric evaluation, which is what I do,
Mhm.
and to see if there's any other explanation for their condition being naturalistic rather than one of these extraordinary attacks of the demonic. And I get sent people who think they're possessed, maybe believe they're oppressed, and some people who just complain about what Mr. Shanahan was talking about. They are living in a locale where there's some kind of spooky stuff going on, an infestation. And I do a standard evaluation, and quite a few of these people obviously do turn out to be mentally ill.
Okay.
Now, I want to draw a distinction between those cases who come to me on their own because they think something may be going on versus, say, the normal course of my professional life. Over the years of my practice and working as a professor and supervisor, I've probably evaluated more than 25,000 cases of psychiatric patients. People are sometimes surprised, fundamentalists are sometimes surprised when I say none of those individuals, 0 out of 25,000, did I all of a sudden say, oh, by the way, sir, you're possessed,
Okay.
So they were all psychiatric cases. The cases that I've seen on sort of private consultations of my own with clergy or people seeking me out who already suspect they might have something. Those are the kind of cases that I sometimes diagnose as medically ill or psychiatric, and not rarely I also have to confirm to the individual victim that yes, they're suffering from some kind of demonic attack.
Okay, what's your step 2 then? Once you get through that evaluation and medically you feel like you can't hang a diagnosis medically on that you feel that there is some sort of a possession or an oppression going on, what's the next step for that victim?
Well, I'm not an exorcist myself.
Okay.
And I don't treat them. As a matter of fact, these are individuals I don't treat as patients.
Okay.
I don't take these people as patients. I'm doing a consultation. They're often very happy and desirous, or the clergy may be desirous that I have a thorough that I give a thorough assessment and I give my own opinion. And then officially, it's up to the clergy they work with to give them the official diagnosis, although I clearly have my own views about that.
Okay.
And then they get hopefully the spiritual help they need. And if they get sound spiritual help, which again is not, it's not just like the help of a witch doctor where somebody does some mumbo jumbo or incantation and the problem goes away. The individual also has to work at it. They have to develop themselves and fight against their attack themselves spiritually. And again,
so you make it sound like it might take months or years to finally.
it varies. I mean, I've seen. I'm not saying that exorcisms and prayers of liberation, what different religions do in different ways, are not effective. They're a big part of the process. But since people have to renounce a lot of times things they've done in their lives, and they have to work on themselves spiritually, it can take a long time. Although I've seen people after one exorcism be delivered of their problem. Sometimes it takes weeks or months. In some cases, it can take years, and some people are never delivered. So it's all the mystery of what God wants to allow to happen.
I see. Okay.
The nice thing about your book, it's broken up into 3 different sections. Part 1, the skeptic to the observer. Part 2, investigation, and I have my glasses. Then there's a part 3, consultant and scholar. Have you witnessed any exorcisms,
Many.
Doctor? Many? What's your feeling about what you've seen?
Well, I've seen some remarkable things. I write in the book to some extent about things that I saw during exorcisms. In terms of diagnosing a possession, you have to take the total picture. You have to take the context, the history of the individual, what they might have gotten involved in their life. You also have to take account of what the phenomena are. Obviously, we think that in a possession, an evil spirit has taken over some or all of the consciousness and body of the victim for a while, because it seems to kind of lays low, but it seems to submerge itself and, not appear 24/7. Often the person will be in a perfectly normal state in between these episodes. But during the episodes and during exorcisms, you will often hear the demon speak. And in the Catholic tradition, going back even further, but codified in the 1614 Roman ritual, which in a revised form remains the official manual for the Catholic Church in discerning and dealing with evil spirits. 3 particularly suggestive, they're not exclusive, but 3 particularly suggestive criteria are listed as giving evidence, which is what you're looking for, that there's clearly something beyond a psychotic or multiple personality or something like that involved. And those criteria are clear psychic knowledge that the individual could not know otherwise. A kind of superhuman strength or bizarre movement like a levitation, and ability to speak in a foreign language, a language fluently that the individual never studied. And certainly I've seen all 3 of those signs, sometimes outside of an exorcism too, but also in exorcisms.
My question to you, now that we talked about, that you brought this up, I guess you could say it's like internal knowledge, okay, when it comes out demonic. Can individuals also have that knowledge based on this actual spiritual, holy type of knowledge within, okay, that they don't know where this information is coming from? Let's say I got in discussion with somebody about Catholic faith, Jesus, God, whatever, and all of a sudden this knowledge came out of them that they're like, wow. Can there be good knowledge, spiritual knowledge? Would you say that, or does it always have to be on a demonic type of coming out of them, knowledge on the spiritual side?
Well, there was a famous Catholic mystic, John of the Cross, and he was very knowledgeable about this type of stuff. I would regard the present president, who's a exorcist scholar in Italy, Father Beaumonte. He's the head of the International Association of Exorcists. I agree with these 2 great experts. I mean, I came to this conclusion on my own, that the term paranormal is somewhat of a, I'm going to use a strong word, somewhat of a pseudoscientific one. It's a modern term to explain what past ages believed were spiritual, were non-material. And in the Christian tradition, there's really only two spiritual entities. There's the supernatural, which in some ways I think you were referring to.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the demonic,
Okay.
which is sometimes called the preternatural. So all these phenomena, in my opinion, Mr. Shanahan, they're all either demonic or they could be supernatural. So we've often heard of saints or particular prophets and gurus who get special knowledge from God and seem to know things about people, read people's hearts, that sort of thing. And I believe that sometimes that knowledge is holy and supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the majority of people who are involved in things that, quite frankly, the Bible condemns in very strong terms, like fortune telling, communication with spirits, which was called necromancy. These things are highly condemned in traditional Christian sources for good reason, because the suggestion there, or at least the belief there, has been that wittingly or unwittingly, even if the individual is a decent individual, that they're being manipulated by diabolic forces. Now, let me give you an offshoot example of that. During exorcisms, demons often pretend that they're dead souls. I mean, they may even say, I'm Judas Iscariot, or blah, blah, blah person, Hitler, or whatever. Eventually, as the exorcism succeeds, they invariably are forced to admit that they were lying. And then they say, I'm an evil spirit. My name is blah, 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 Asmodeus, blah, blah, blah. They have all these traditional names.
Mm-hmm.
So I have tended to believe that dead souls don't really possess people, and that people, especially if they do it for a living, people who are practitioners who claim to be in touch with human spirits, which often gets caught up in a whole another bunch of New Age beliefs and all that,
Mm-hmm.
like Edgar Casey, for example. I think that they're often being manipulated. Now, they may be very decent people, but they're entering a realm that they may be more manipulated than in control of.
Okay. All right.
I know that's a strong belief that some people in the paranormal world dispute.
Well, I personally, and I've written about this. I've written about it in Chicago Now and all that, in the Patch, Chicago, Oakland Patch newspaper, that there's also in the New Testament, and we're not going to get deep into religion for sure, but there's also what I call the promised powers of the Holy Spirit. And I don't have the Bible in front of me right now, but kind of says that kind of stuff will be, for those true believers, it will be gifted to them as a gift by the Holy Spirit.
Well,
so we both have our views.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying now.
Yeah.
That there are gifted religious people who have some abilities.
Yes.
In St. Paul, he called it charisms, and he called it the abilities obtained through the Spirit, such as what was called prophecy, which was a very broad term for people who got messages.
Right.
But that's what I was including under the category of supernatural gifts. I believe some spiritual people are gifted.
I believe too that you have to look at the whole person. Okay.
Again, I don't agree with that. You always have to look at the whole person and the whole context and history and what we call the fruits. You know,
Right.
what are the fruits of these gifts?
Right. Right. Okay. In this day and age, do you think there's more demonic stuff going on as people fall away from any beliefs of religion?
I do believe that. I think it can be exaggerated because I think these phenomena have always existed. And in fact, pretty much all societies throughout history have had a strong belief in evil spirits. I would say the majority of the human race, as validated even by anthropologists like a famous one, Erica Bourguignon, who studied possession in something like 370 cultures and found clear evidence of belief in possession in about 3/4 of them, and that doesn't mean that the others didn't have it too. So these are very widespread beliefs, and even within America, they're widespread beliefs. Most Americans have spiritual beliefs. Most Americans believe in God, and most Americans believe in evil spirits. And certainly a very high percentage of people continue to believe in evil spirits. So when people say to me, well, Dr. Gallagher, you're in the psychiatric profession, which tends to be a little skeptical, and they say, therefore, you're out of the mainstream. I say, I'm not out of the mainstream. You know, people who completely discount this stuff are out of the mainstream if you look at US history and world history. So to get back to your question, while these phenomena have always existed, it is possible, in my opinion. Well, let me put it this way. There are two theories. One is that as the media, I mean, you're a member of the media yourself, as the media have discussed these kind of things more openly, and there have been movies, you know, some very good movies, some schlocky movies. The original Exorcist movie was based on a real case, although it had its sensationalized element. But as young people especially have been exposed to the media discussion of these topics, either solid discussions or sensationalized ones or confused ones, it may be that people have gotten more preoccupied with this and begin to ascribe other stuff like mental illness or other weird phenomena in life to these forces. On the other hand, most people in the field, you know, most of the exorcists I work with, and I should say, I don't speak for the International Association, I don't speak for the Catholic Church, I speak for myself.
Right.
You know, and you know, clergy come to me of their own free will to get my opinion. So they don't speak for me, I don't speak for them. These are my personal opinions. But the opinion of a lot of these individuals, these spiritual ministers and priests and rabbis, they tend to think as people have moved away from solid religion, and of course, you know, religion has its own amount of hypocrites and, you know, sort of phony people too. But as sound religion, orthodox religions, mainstream religions have declined and people have turned to alternate belief systems or no belief at all. And that trend, which was well underway in Europe for a very long time, has accelerated in the last couple of decades in the United States as well. Young people are not remaining so much as they used to in the faith of their youth. I do believe that these commentators, religious commentators, are correct that it's very probable that more people have been attacked by evil spirits and manifest these conditions, albeit still rare, precisely because they don't have the spiritual protection that a truly sound spirituality gives someone.
Totally agree. Annette? you have any more questions?
And sometimes just out of my own curiosity, I wonder if knowing a dogma or an orthodox religion can sometimes work against a person because they're more open to the idea that the devil is a part of their world. Can kind of go both ways, I think, but I see what you mean about declining religion. That's for sure. I'm a poster child for having jumped off the Catholic wagon into something that I felt more connected with. But I think a lot of the practices of my youth remain with me. The difference between right and wrong, and all those things. But I don't particularly believe in the devil. But I think that in all of science, in all of nature, everything seeks to balance itself, down to the molecular level. So where there is light, there must be dark to find that balance. Otherwise, why would demons exist in the first place?
Look, Annette, I certainly agree with you that there's often a lot of simplified thinking and hypocrisy and phoniness in religious establishments too. We have to think of some of the priest abuse cases, which have.
And we don't even have to get into that. There's so much good that can come from it.
But Annette,
Okay.
Jesus Christ himself, who was a Jew, as was all his followers.
Yep.
He was very, very critical of the religious establishment of his day.
Yeah.
So, I'm not defending all religious establishments, but it's quite clear, and this is where, people make up their mind themselves, and you have an absolute right to your own beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no question that the Christian tradition and Jesus of Nazareth himself clearly saw that there were two kingdoms, a kingdom of God, which was also prophesied from the Old Testament, and a kingdom of darkness, a kingdom of Satan. And, any objective reader of the Gospels, when they see Jesus addressing Satan and Jesus driving out demons, these were not mentally ill people. He himself taught very clearly and quite frankly, very vociferously that there were evil spirits and that they did have some influence on human beings. So again, it comes back to a whole host of other issues. What do you think of the credibility of the Gospels, et cetera, et cetera? This is a much broader discussion. But as a Catholic, I come from a tradition which has clearly, even in its official teachings, its ecumenical council of Florence, for instance, has clearly taught the reality of Satan. And that's what I believe, because quite frankly, in part because I think I've seen very clear evidence of evil spirits.
Interesting.
Doctor, I'd like to say again, the book, Demonic Foes by Dr. Richard Gallagher, MD. We didn't even, this book is 255 pages. We haven't even tapped into your knowledge, your experiences. And I would say knowledge because you have experienced it. It's not, you're not some guy that reads people's posts on Facebook and come to a conclusion. You have actually dealt with this in all different levels.
I'd like to say, Mr. Shanahan, I'm not an armchair expert.
No, you're not. You're an expert, period.
I didn't volunteer for this, and I'm not sure it's a good idea for people to volunteer for it. I'd like to think it was more providential that I got asked to help people. Mm-hmm. And again, as a physician, that's why I got involved. My whole vocation as a physician is to help suffering people. a lot of these people who suffer demonic attacks are tormented. And just because they have a controversial diagnosis, I wasn't just going to abandon them and say, well, tough luck,
Yeah.
we don't touch that stuff. So that was my motivation. My motivation in writing the book, Demonic Foes, was to enlighten people. Somebody wrote an article about me the other day. They say Dr. Gallagher works with exorcists but doesn't try to convince people. I would say that's largely true. In the book, I present a mass of evidence, what I think is massive evidence, as well as a survey of the historical evidence. And in the book, Demonic Foes, I'm trying to, in a way that the gentleman who wrote the preface to the book, who was a former American Psychiatric Association president, Dr. Joseph English, he called it unique in history, giving this massive evidence from a full professor of psychiatry. So I present the evidence. I don't say this is all of sound religion. Sound religion involves love of God, love of our fellow human beings. But it is a part, and it's certainly a part of most historical religions, not just Christianity. And so I thought I had something to say based on my years of experience.
And I love that you're saying it, because there's too many people out there that think they know how to do it, how to get, and I'm a firm believer in the clergy. I'm a firm believer in people being diagnosed, et cetera, because there's a lot of things going on in people's heads that don't have nothing to do with possessions. So,
and there are people who are exploiting people financially.
Yes,
when I send somebody to an exorcist or a minister who does deliverance, I tell them, be very leery of anybody who does this and charges you money.
Right.
This is a spiritual ministry, and it should be done in that spirit of service.
Again, Demonic Foes, you can find it on Amazon. Just type it into Google and you'll see all the different places you could buy it.
Is there a special website, Dr. Gallagher, that you would like to mention?
Well, you can Google Demonic Foes and, my name. I don't think you need my name anymore. You can just Google Demonic Foes and it'll come up on the official HarperCollins website.
Okay.
And as Mr. Shanahan said, on Amazon, it's easily available.
Thank you again, Doctor. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
We could have spent all day on this, and that's why I'm kind of saying, after nearly an hour, we better stop now or else it'll be 4 hours.
Well, it was my pleasure to talk to two thoughtful people. And if you want to pursue the topic again, call me in a year or so.
Sure. Let me read more of the book and get back to you on that. Promise. Okay.
It'd be my pleasure.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. Have a good day.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Welcome, Annette, too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. That was, I enjoyed that. We'll probably have them back on again for Demonic.
I'm already thinking of new questions. Definitely.
Yeah. We could have definitely spent 2 or 3 hours on there. Easily, because this is a big book. It's a very good book. He
is an expert.
Yeah, and he don't pull no punches neither, which is kind of.
I thought it was very interesting that he mentioned that a colleague had said that they thought that this was the first time a collection like his book, Demonic Foes, was presented to the public. This man has 25 years experience doing this. What other book is out there that is like that? So,
and imagine what he didn't tell us that he's experienced.